Spoken
I
language.
haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Cape Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken language.
Thank you today for tuning in to Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up at the beginning of 2016 and as of recording has over 200 sessions in our archive. Although the podcast can be heard on Anchor, iTunes, Apple, Spotify, YouTube and literally 10 or 11 other networks, the full archive can be found at Spoken Label, all one word, spokenlabel.bandcamp.com. On Bandcamp, it is set as pay what you want, so you are entitled, if you wish, you can download it or stream it for nothing. But if you throw me a couple of pennies my way, it is always eternally grateful to help me maintain the operating costs and future running costs of this podcast. Enjoy.
Spoken label. Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house. I'm on Zoom again today, and I've got another poet on the other side of the Zoom with me, actually, strange enough. And this young lady I'm chatting to, I've been chatting to her for a little while now, but I was aware of, it's a case when you chat to writers, sometimes you're aware of them before you get talking, and she's a fantastic writer. She's got some really interesting ideas. So, and I'm pleasure to talk to you today, Caroline. So, Caroline, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them who you are, where you originally came from, and what led you on the creative path you're on now.
Hi, I'm Caroline Burrows, and I write poetry, prose, and personal essays. I'm originally from Scotland, but I've lived in London and Bristol, and now I'm up in Lancaster. So I suppose I'd describe myself as British rather than anything else. I've been writing on and off for years. I've got a background in graphic design. I did a degree with the Open University when I was in my mid-30s, and that was in literature. So that sort of reawakened my love of reading and writing. And then that led to me sort of writing a lot of flash fiction and then poetry, and eventually plucking up the courage to quit my job and sell my flat and go and do an MA in creative writing up in Lancaster, which is why I'm up here at the moment. So since then, I've just been trying to focus more and more on writing poems and making little video poems and writing pieces of flash fiction and trying to finish a novel, which is never ending, the editing. But
I can relate to that.
I hope I write it before I die. But anyway, so that's kind of what's led to me being where I am. It's sort of been incremental steps, really, growing in confidence and being encouraged, and then sort of taking a leap of faith to throw myself into it fully with doing and finishing the MA and trying to stay on that path and not revert back to any of the paths I was on before. Yeah,
you sound what you told me before. You've had certainly you've gone in a few directions, haven't you, in your career, really, certainly. So, like, it's when I've had an interview, you told me you're originally a graphic designer. Now, obviously, if you're a graphic designer, you've got to have structure, haven't you? I think you can carry the skills forward into your poetry. Do you find that then, when you're looking back at your work as a graphic designer, do you think it did naturally lead you into it?
I think it's all to do with storytelling, because there's a new kind of term, maybe it's not that new, but people describe themselves as visual storytellers. I don't know what other kind of storyteller there is really, but I think everything in life has some kind of ingredient into what makes you where you are now. So yeah, I've got the graphic design background, and that's to do with it's different to doing fine art when you're working for companies and clients, because it's all to do with clear communication and someone's trying to explain what's in their head and what they want you to produce as a graphic designer, and then you're trying to translate that into pictures. And I think poetry and writing stories is very similar. It's trying to have clarity and communicate what's in my head to someone else's head. So visually, I think that helps, having the art background really, and having worked in the graphic design industry when I was younger. So I think it's all to do with communication really, and trying to be clear. One of the sessions I had at university last year was with Paul Muldoon. He was a visiting professor. So that was kind of amazing. And I'm a massive Wilfred Owen fan, and one of the things he said, I'm in love with a man who's 100 years dead, but never mind. But he said that what was so effective about Wilfred Owen's poetry was again the clarity, that if you sit in a room with a bunch of people and say something, everyone will have a different impression of what's being said. It's hard enough in normal communication, but Wilfred Owen's poems are so visual that he manages to communicate what he can see, as well as the feeling and the sort of outrage at what's going on. So that kind of was a little light bulb moment hearing it from Paul Muldoon. I mean, if you can have a session with a teacher, that's one of the best, really.
He's fantastic writer, he really is, yeah.
I mean, he's got a Pulitzer, it's not bad, is it? So I think that's right, yeah.
He's done well for himself, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, obviously in relation to yourself, and obviously your pseudonym is Versecycle, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Now, do you want to tell people, obviously, where did that come from?
Okay, so Versecycle, so verse is in poetry and cycle is in bicycle, because I'm quite passionate about cycling. I was going to say obsessive, but that's negative. So I've spent quite a lot of time going off on bike tours on my own, with friends and with groups. And quite a few of my poems are cycling related. So for example, last May, in a different world when we could cycle around anywhere we wanted, I went on a mini bicycle tour around England and the borders of Wales, visiting Wilfred Owen locations.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then it was amazing. And what was so nice was having the knowledge of Wilfred Owen and the tragic, poignant story of his death and where his poetry came from, but then visiting where he was born, where he went to school. So it's Shrewsbury, Oswestry and Birkenhead, was getting to sort of know him and his childhood and his family life. So I put all of that cycling adventure into a poem because I wanted to base it on his style. So Versecycle kind of came about because a lot of my stuff generally features a bicycle. Not always, but a lot of the time a bicycle sneaks in there, even if the poem's not about a bike tour. If it's about heartbreak or something, a bicycle manages to wheedle its way in. So that's where Versecycle originally came from.
Right, yeah. That explains why, then, certainly. I was guessing there was some big love on it, because I knew you loved your cycling and tell that before, and I could see that and watch some of your videos today. So now, tell everybody next then about your year of trying to be environmentally friendly.
Oh, so this has become an albatross around my neck. On the 19th of September, I decided that I would try and write a verse of poetry a day about trying to be environmentally friendly and how difficult it is actually. So I was really wary of not wanting to sound preachy or worthy, because the infrastructure's not there and it's hard and we all make mistakes. So the idea was just to write just a sort of verse a day about what I'd tried to do that day and my successes and failures at it. So I've been posting. Sometimes I fall a few days behind because of other things, and then I have to write a flurry of 4 verses at once. But I have kept up with it, and it's become like a religious practice, which is good. It makes me think each day about trying to not have a negative impact on things. So I'm at verse 244 now, I think. It's quite terrifying, and it's become...
going. I could have done it.
So, yeah, I've been putting them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and it's all under Versecycle. And then because of lockdown, what's been really nice is that I've been asking friends and other poets and writers, and well, just anyone I know really, if they'd like to record a verse. So it's become collaborative and sociable. So they've been sending in themselves recording my verses, and I've been compiling them. So they're going up on YouTube now. So I've done verses 1 to 20 with friends, and it's interesting hearing other people read my words back, and it feels friendly and sociable. And it's also quite odd that it's not that, I mean, it started in September and lockdowns changed everything so much. And some of the things that were happening that were nice about trying to be environmentally friendly have obviously gone backwards because of the virus. So, for example, just before lockdown, I was in a supermarket, and instead of all the bread and cakes being laid out for anyone to pick, they're now wrapped in plastic again. So while no one's travelling by car or plane as much, plastic's kind of making a comeback because everyone's rightly scared of the virus. So it's just interesting seeing the contrast, what's happening there. But I am enjoying putting the videos together, and that's where sort of what I was saying about nothing's wasted, and my old graphic design skills are kind of coming back into play using the video software and putting the images on. So
they are very good, because if you watch your videos, you can really see, one, you're a good writer, and two, you know what you're doing all your video and editing, and that's good skills to have, basically. So and that's excellent. Now, obviously, also as well, I know you have a loving for quite formal structure in poems, don't you? You were telling me before about your love of villanellas, and I thought, oh my God, I used to do my head in when I was a student. But obviously, then the haikus, your tankers as well. So now, what made you want to write in a more structured form all the time in your work?
I think, again, it probably comes back to the poets that I personally like. So, like, for example, Dante writes in Terza Rima, and it's just it leans itself towards a rhythm and a storytelling narrative kind of style. So I suppose Wilfred Owen plays around with structure and half rhymes, para rhymes, and Sylvia Plath, who I just think is amazing and makes me cry when I read her poems because it's so emotionally laden.
It's incredible the stuff it is. It really is. I think she really was before her time to for poetry. That's amazing.
I think one of my favourites is The Moon in the Yew Tree. Usually if I read a poem for the first time, I try to read it out loud, because it's like music, isn't it? You're supposed to kind of, I think it's good to hear how it sounds as well as how it looks. And so I read The Moon in the Yew Tree out loud, and I'd never read it before, and I was in tears by the third verse. I couldn't speak anymore. And Michael Donaghy did the same to me with a poem called The Tuning. So I think they get a lot more powerful if you hear them out loud. But so I suppose I like form because of the poets that I like. So I sort of admire what they do. But I'm not. I don't think that's the only way to write poetry. I think any kind of creativity is fantastic and should be put out there, and there's no prescriptive way to do anything. It's just how my head works. I like having structure. I like having a framework to hang something on and then play around with it afterwards, and let the poem kind of do what it needs to do after it's been hung, but maybe it does need to be adapted, and then the form can be reduced or let go to a certain degree. So I'm not tyrannical about it,
Yeah, of course. I think you said before off mic to me, didn't you? Sometimes you've got to start the piece off in that way and then let it raise its own head base and go in direction it's naturally meant to be. So I agree with you completely on that. It's completely now. I want to ask you next about being a speaker over at the Cycle Touring Festival and also Explorers Connect. Now that's something a bit different. So where did this come from?
So that comes from the cycle touring again. So I love watching ridiculous programs like Celebrity SAS and things that I'm completely incapable of ever doing. But when I was a bit younger, well, not even that long ago, really, I did take my bicycle up to Argentina on my own, and I've been to Mexico and gone over to France with my bike and tried to find places where King Arthur was set. Well, where Merlin's trapped under a tree, actually, in the forest of Brocéliande, and he deserved it for treating Fairy Vivian badly. She got him back. But so after I did my Open University degree, a lot of the books from that course I noticed were based in the north of England. So there was the Bronte sisters, Wuthering Heights, and Jane Eyre. There was Pat Barker for The Ghost Road over what's south of Whitby? I've forgotten the name of the place. Scarborough, right? Thank God. Right, and some of Dracula's set in Whitby. So I put, and Wilfred Owen had stayed in Scarborough as well while recovering from shell shock before he went back. So I sort of mapped out this route after finishing that degree to go and visit the locations to do with the books that I'd read, and it was amazing because Wuthering Heights and Haworth, I mean, the hills were a killer. The landscape was beautiful. The weather was terrible. It was like I was in Wuthering Heights, and I kept joking that my bicycle was my Heathcliff, you know. Sort of traumatized love romance going on. So I put all that together, and then I sort of made it into a talk about the landscape, the bike tour, and how they kind of influenced each other and what I got out of it from doing that degree course, really. So I ended up giving a talk first off at Explorers Connect down in Bristol, and it was just a little half-hour talk, and then it grew and grew and grew, and I got a bit more confidence. So again, it was that kind of nothing's wasted, and keep working on stuff and keep having a go. So I ended up at the Cycle Touring Festival last year giving it as a talk. I was really nervous about it as well, but it went down well, and there was very nice feedback from folks about it. And then this year they did it as a virtual cycle touring festival, because obviously it couldn't happen. So then I put it all together with the video skills that I'd learned. So that's online now to view. So it's got information about the novels and about the bike tour and about the state of my head during certain days, which were more enduring than others.
Oh yeah, completely. No, fascinating. Do you have any idea where you want your work to go next then, or have you got any sort of plans at the moment laid out?
Well, I want to keep doing the eco-verses because there's still another 120 days to go or something like that, and then putting them together as a video. I want to keep writing my poetry and making my little poetry videos because I'm really enjoying that. What I was hoping to do before, but lockdown and coronavirus has changed everything, but I spoke to, when I did the cycling podcast, I'd spoken about the idea of going off on my bike and going places and showing up and seeing if I could just do my poems of an evening in a pub somewhere and put my hat out, you know, to try and sustain myself. So I had this sort of, I'm sorry, that's my phone.
Don't worry, I thought that was me for a second then. And I'll back to you, sorry. Go.
I've got my phone set up as my camera, so yeah. Apologies for the pinging. So my idea was to be like a sort of traveling poet, showing up places to read out short stories and poems, and just sort of do a tour and try and find out about the local poets or the local literary historical people, and then write about them, similarly to what I did with my Wilfred Owen tour and what I did with my literary cycling tour. So that was kind of my idea, but everything's changed now. But I was kind of inspired by two things, by Simon Armitage, because he did a thing like that, Walking the Pennine Way. And also there's a Shakespearean troupe of actors that tour around on bicycles and have a trailer carrying all their kit called the Handlebars.
Wow.
So yeah, they're really funny as well. They're great. Go and see them if they're ever allowed to tour again. Yeah. I think they've got stuff on YouTube. But I saw them perform and asked them about their trailer kit. So I bought because I was trying to live environmentally friendly, I decided to buy nothing new this year if I could help it. So I ended up buying a bike trailer off a man on eBay who'd used the trailer for cycling and climbing. And when I told him that I'd bought it because I wanted to do this poetry thing, he replied in a poem. And I thought that was amazing.
Brilliant.
So how wonderful would it be if everyone just conversed in verse from forevermore with me, you know?
Fantastic. Me and Amanda are doing that because we wrote a book together last year. We did Could Run Away With Me in 7 words. And it started off with Amanda doing a 7-word poem and then me getting clever and doing a response to it. And she didn't expect that. And it then became a book. But we've just started to work on the sequel now. We're calling it Run Away With Me again in 8 words. So this next time we're doing it in 8 words instead of 7.
That's so beautiful. Oh.
It's great fun. We communicate with each other in verse. I know what you mean. You wish the world should do it more, definitely. It's a really great idea.
Maybe there should be a national day instead of just National Poetry Day where we celebrate poetry. You're only allowed to talk in verse for the entire day. Everything must rhyme.
Fantastic, we've got National Poetry Writing Month. We should be National West Poetry Writing Text Day as much, shouldn't we? Yeah, it's a great idea. That definitely. Now that's all my questions, Caroline. Unfortunately, so if people want to find out more about you, where are the best going?
Okay, so the best place to see the work is probably on YouTube, and the channel is called Versecycle, because it's got the poems set to little videos, or sometimes I'm in them and sometimes it's little pictures. And then also for the eco verses, they're on Twitter and Instagram, and also on Facebook. Facebook's got the videos and the eco verses, and everything's under Versecycle. So, and also under my name, Caroline Burrows. But there is another poet called Caroline Burrows. Our stuff's very different. So I'm the one that's associated with Versecycle. That's the easiest way to differentiate really between the two. If there's a bicycle involved, it's probably me.
Yeah, when I was researching it this morning, I noticed that myself. There was another post with Caroline Burrows. I thought I enjoyed her work, but I did see the difference in the style completely. So
it's really good. So if people search and find the other Caroline Burrows, read her stuff as well, because it's really good. But it is a very different subject matter to my sort of whimsical cycling poems.
To make you laugh, Caroline, before we go. My real name's I'm out to myself now, so I don't care today. But my real name's actually Andy Nicholson. And I came Andy in like 15 years ago because when I started writing, people started writing to me thinking I was the bass player for the Arctic Monkeys. I thought, all right, change quick. So,
you could have used it to your advantage, but Andy N it is now then, okay.
Yeah, it suits me better, don't you? Well, I was getting something I had like 50 friend requests come through one day after a poetry reading. I thought, I don't know who any of these people are. So,
I don't know. I think I might change my name to George Clooney now, actually. I've gone a bit so long.
Good idea. Right, anyway, Caroline, seriously, that's the end of part 1 for us. I know you're going to do a few poems for us now, aren't you? So what we'll do, guys and girls, is we'll take a quick break, hang around, obviously, and we'll see you in 1 minute when Caroline's going to do a few pieces for us. So, take care, guys. Hi, guys. Okie dokie. Straight on to Caroline now. And she's got a couple of pieces for us today. So over to you, Caroline.
Okay. This is a poem about a cycle commute I did in Bristol going home through an underpass, which is never nice at the best of times. And it goes through an underpass which shows how Bristol used to make its money. It's got sort of pictures in the underpass. It's called Junkies in the Underpass. I cycle quickly past the junkies in the underpass. Their dealer stands dead centre, a white man dressed in black, astride a bike with no lights, this underworld his stage. Evening, breathes this king of short, sharp pricks, as I ride wide of him, pedalling his shit, to 2 locals laid low between the broken glass and grit. His shout carries a glint, like the water in the bottle, and the tarnished metal spoon I spy left at pedal level, a scene waning like the moon. Yellow light reveals them huddled beneath the underpass's mosaics, which depict a long history of most of Bristol's trades, this current exchange excluded, and the sugar, and the slaves. Graffiti scrawls across the pictures, letters and words all strung out. Not street art, not a Banksy, just a public place defaced. It's an update representing this exact time and space.
Excellent. No, what I can see there with your words is you are very, very good at condensing a sense of place and that. And I've not been to where you're talking, but I felt I knew the place after that. So yeah, really, really evocative. Excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, over to number 2 then.
Okay, so this next poem is to do with the Wilfred Owen bicycle tour that I did, and it's called A Wilfred Owen Oydssey, a spring cycling offensive. My bike's fully loaded, my own pack mule, a pilgrimage of Wilfred Owen poetry, riding south between the Pennines and the Irish Sea. I set my sights for distant Liverpool. You can't miss it, says a man. I ask for directions. Casting his curse, I get lost different ways. Skirt Leyland, where tanks were once made. I'm relieved I've survived it through Preston. Spring lambs bounce around flat fields in the Ribble, near 2 crows ganging up on a baby squirrel. The B road takes me over 6 screaming lanes to a scouse bus honking with offensive disdain. In Birkenhead, a statue called Futility shows a man with his head in his hands who sat with a wreath of paper poppies in his lap. The bronze remains dull, although it's sunny. Expecting a veteran, I meet a musician who went to the BI, Wilfred's old school. Only a wall remains where a cruel head canes kids for breaking archaic rules. In his Wilfmobile, he shows me locations. Did you know a dead famous poet lived there? The people living inside couldn't care. Then it's back to the Wilfred Owen Museum, hearing how he's adapted poetic rhythm into a Wilfred Owen musical. Near Chester, I rest in a cyclist cafe where a roadie shows me a safer greenway past a cemetery where rows of soldiers fill uniform graves standing to attention. Despite the forecast, there's miles of cold wet stuff, but warm showers greet me at Oswestry from members of that cycling community. There's Wilf's birthplace, another statue, an exhibition, a plaque, a park in the church where he prayed. A Wilfred lemon and poppy seed cake was made by the librarian, second place in a bake-off. I wait by a country field as cows are unloaded. One runs bellowing, it's separated. In another truck is its baby calf. It's quieter when I reach city grass outside Shrewsbury Abbey, whose bells when they were ringing war's end. That's when Wilfred's mum got news he'd died. At a pub B&B, I stop cycling. In the bath, the acoustics sound great being read, Wilfred Owen by Richard Burton on YouTube before bed. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, you felt like you were in full Odyssey then. Yeah. You are, you can, well, I like what your work, Caroline, is, and this is a great recommendation to check this out. It's back to centre place, as I said before. In that case, then, the first was all that Bristol, this one was a full Odyssey, and you feel the journey you were on then. Really, really evocative stuff. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, over to number, back to you again then.
Okay. This next one is I wanted to write in ballad form. So yeah, you have to think carefully about the word. You're going to have to rhyme a lot. But this is called Neil Young is Everywhere. Sue knew a man who worshipped a singer. Gaz took as gospel each Neil Young lyric, had Neil Young for breakfast, lunch and dinner, even dressed up like that ageing peacenik. On his mission, Gaz used Neil Young's music to tell Sue it was love, not an affair. All talk, no trousers, a married man's trick. Neil Young was everywhere, Gaz was hot air. Sue tried not to miss her love pretender, watched a flick to forget that fanatic. She groaned, the film showed a mountain climber on top play Old Man, a Neil Young classic. At karaoke, she heard guitars lick a Neil Young song she wanted to murder. Even outside proved a Neil Young nightmare. A harvest moon shone, a joke too cosmic. Neil Young was everywhere, Gaz wasn't there. Gaz had talked big of live now, pay later. Sue sought peace of mind at a health clinic. The nurse said, that's like Neil Young's, it's better to burn out than fade away. Sue felt sick, convinced Gaz had made her a statistic. But Sue was fine, needing no Medicare, just for being with a bit of a dick. Neil Young was everywhere, Gaz was nowhere. Rick sat by Sue. He spoke like a hurricane. Sue asked his music taste, made a prayer. You can guess Rick's answer. It's ironic. Neil Young made them a pair. Neil Young is everywhere.
Fantastic. Why the love for Neil Young then?
It's not really. It's just that he is everywhere. He does seem to, actually his lyrics I really like his lyrics, and he does seem to sort of become ingrained into the society of the world. There is no escaping Neil Young, so it was yeah, or maybe it's just you notice things a lot when you're trying not to. Again.
Yeah, you caught me out with that one. I wasn't expecting that one. But certainly, that was nice.
You've got a Neil Young poem as well, don't you, I think?
Oh, yeah, I do actually, yeah. Oh, yeah, mine's called Bad Neil Young Covers in Nana's Attic. And that's part of a sequence I'm working on. So, but that was a joke, that one. Mine was 2 degrees. So, well, I think yours is a different way of looking at it. Yeah, excellent. Okay, now, did we say you could do 4 or 5 pieces today?
I've got 2 more, if that's
perfect.
Okay. Shorter.
Perfect, yeah. Great stuff. Yeah, fine. Okay, over to number 4 now.
Okay, so this is me trying to write a sonnet, but a Petrarchan sonnet. So it's the Italian rhyming scheme, and it's called the Hawthorn. A native bush from the north, the hawthorn. When grown in the right hemisphere, you'll find it sometimes has the power to spellbind lost hearts drifting over the wilds forlorn. One bush stands fast on a fell weather worn, thriving despite the elements that grind. Its barbed branches catch me, I become entwined. The thorns pierce my skin, my feathers are torn. Deep within the bush's heart is a blaze. I peck the thorns out, flick them on the fire. The flames form a song thrush, wings scratched and grazed. We heal our wounds, cooing with desire, feed each other berries, gather white bouquets, and make our nest in the hawthorn briar.
Yeah. No, I think sonnets are quite hard things to write, but you've got done a really good job on that there. So do you find them when you're in sonnets, because obviously like, they're very, very different to ballads and obviously other stuff you work you do on. Do you find you have to put to go into different rhythm all the time, or put different head on almost?
I think it's usually the content kind of dictates to me what I want to write, but also looking at the structure of sonnets. To me, they look a bit like discursive essays. If you, for example, John Keats's Bright Star, it's like it's got a very wide view, and then he gets closer and closer to Earth until he's with his lover in bed, and it's all connected through the symbolism of a star, but it's each sort of 4, 4, 4, and then conclusion. So I think the organizational structure of a sonnet lends itself towards emotional storytelling. I think I can. That's how I sort of see it.
Yeah. I'm saying get straight with it. Excellent. Okay, the big conclusion now, isn't it?
It's a short and sweet one. It's called The Last Waltz. The courting lovebirds danced. He pushed forwards, entranced, forced her 1 step behind. His leading turned her blind. He made moves, she sidestepped, held too tight, she felt kept. Feet unswept, she flew, freestyle.
Oh, wow. See, really good. That was really, it just pulled the rug up from the feet then completely. Excellent. Great way. Thank you, Caroline. That was a great way of finishing. I really enjoyed it today. Hang around. I need a quick word off mic. Thank you again today, Caroline. It's been an exceptional session. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care, guys and girls. Stay safe and stay sane if possible. I'll see you all soon. Take care. Spoken, mate.